Well, hello everybody. Welcome again to Frequently Asked Question Friday. Today we're going to do something a little bit differently. We have a guest appearance by Eric Holguin. Eric is running for the District 27 House of Representatives. Some of you guys may be familiar. That's the district that Blake Farenthold used to represent. He, I guess, retired yesterday. Eric is a Democrat, and he's running to replace Blake. So, Eric, you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I always say I'm from South Texas because we kind of moved around a lot when I was a kid. I went to elementary school in Odom, middle school in Flatfurias, high school in the Valley, and then I went to college at A&M Corpus Christi. And I come from this very middle-class family. My dad's a public school educator. My mom's a nurse. My brothers are veterans, now state troopers. One's in Dallas and one's in the Valley. And I guess I have to start plugging my little sister because she got upset whenever I went and talked about her. She's like, I'm getting a degree in criminal justice, so why don't you bring that up? I'm like, all right, so I have a little sister that's going to be a criminologist soon. Working for.
Everybody say hi to Eric's little sister. What's her name?
Alyssa.
Alyssa.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all E's.
Okay.
And then Evan, Eric, and Alyssa.
Right.
And my grandfather's a former justice of the peace in Jim-Haw County. So I come from a very public service oriented family. And most recently, I was actually spending time in New York City, where I was working for the New York City Controller as community advisor for him. I worked on a wide range of issues ranging from LGBTQ to seniors to education to transportation. That's where I really learned the nitty-gritty of government. And also prior to that, I was working for a U.S. Congresswoman there in New York as well. And so that's where I'm at. I actually ran for city council here in 2009 when I was a college student at A&M.
Is that right?
Yeah, didn't win, didn't raise any money, but because no one was like, oh, who's this 21-year-old punk that's trying to run for office? But, I powered through it, and it was a great experience, and wanted to come back down to Texas because I just wanted to get involved, especially after last year's election. Yeah, that really fired me up to get me involved.
I think that got lots of people fired up. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Can you just briefly? I know that the district you're running for is extremely gerrymandered, but can you just describe the boundaries of it, of where all it runs to, and where your district is? Yeah,
so the most southern part, the most southern town is Bishop, which is between Corpus Christi and Kingsville, and then it goes up north to Matagorda, which is right outside Houston, and it's sort of like this, so it goes along the coast, and then it has like this Y, it almost looks like a Y, and it goes through Victoria, Gonzales, up to Bastrop. And so it's obviously gerrymandered and been ruled gerrymandered, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen what the Supreme Court decides to say.
Right. Yeah. This is one of this districts that the court said this is obviously politically motivated and racially motivated.
Yeah. And if you look at the lines, the district has Corpus, P.L.L.C, goes all the way down to Odom, but it cuts out Odom, which is where I come from, and it's a Hispanic community.
Right.
Goes back down the highway, cuts around Sinton, which is another Hispanic population.
Right.
But it has Edroy in the district, which is funny because Odom and Edroy go together usually.
Right.
And so, it was very, they got their scalpel and they figured out a way to cut out a lot of the minority.
Don't need any Hispanics in this place. Don't need Hispanics in this place. We'll cut them out.
Yeah. And even up north, they cut out Lockhart, which is up near Austin almost, because since Austin's getting expensive, a lot of the millennials are starting to move into the outer towns, which is making it more of a, millennials typically vote Democrat for the most part. And so they cut around Lockhart. Yeah. And so it's, it's amazing what they did.
They're trying to make sure they can preserve their Republican territory there, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the definition of gerrymandering.
Yeah.
All right. So, having grown up in South Texas, what do you feel like you have to offer the constituents of this district?
Well, I think definitely we need someone who has the same South Texas values that people grew up with down here. You know, I was born and raised down here, educated down here, and so I think it's about time that the people that live in South Texas, along the coastal bend, a lot of these working class communities, that they are represented by someone who has the same working class values that they have. If you look at Barenthal, I know he's not going to be in the race anymore. He grew up very wealthy, very privileged, and whenever you're not raised in that certain, whenever you're not raised in the working class and raised in more of the higher percentage, you don't truly understand what people go through. And you know, like I remember growing up, like my family was on WIC. I mean, it's SNAP now, but you have people need to be represented by someone who understands where they come from. And since I grew up in this area, I understand what, you know, a lot of the struggles that families are facing today, because my family faced it. And it's unfortunate that people are facing it even worse today than they were back, you know, than my parents were back in the day. So I truly, like I said, I come from a family of public servants, so I really truly care about the people here, and really trying to push it forward. And that's why I stepped up to run for this race, because I have what it takes. I have the skin for it. I have the experience for it, and you know, I care about what's going on, and I'm a fighter, and I know I could do this. So.
All right. What do you think it's going to take to win this seat in this gerrymandered district?
So I guess my whole campaign isn't a Democrat versus Republican campaign, and I think that's how this is the way to win. And I know it sounds cheesy to say that we need to unify and work together, but we really need to. There's so much polarization on both ends of the spectrum going on right now. So for me, it's focusing on the issues that affect people's daily lives, everything down from the streets to all the way up to the healthcare at the federal level. And while I don't necessarily have the legal authority, if elected, the legal authority to dictate what happens to their local streets, because that's a city issue, I'm here to be an advocate for them on state issues and city issues and county issues. And so for me, it's reaching across the aisles. We're going to people who might not have the same political views that I do, and be like, where can we figure this out? Where can we work together? Because all we're doing is just this, and it's getting tiring of it. And it's not just Democrats that feel that way. I've had a lot of conversations with Republicans, and they're just like, you know, where can we get along now? Because for the past almost 2 years, we just spent so much time fighting with each other. And even with, you know, Barenthal being the representative, many Republicans have reached out and they said, oh, you know, you seem kind of like a normal person, you know, and so people are willing to work together, and people also want statesmanship back. Like it's sort of, you know, we look at the current administration, we look at the guy that ran Roy Moore. And Barenthal, and it's sort of people who don't have statesmanship. They make the country look bad. They make their state look bad. They make their district look bad, and it's all for these kind of crazy ideological views. So now we need to sort of go back to working together and figuring out how to address a lot of these issues.
Make men look bad too.
Yeah, you know.
What are the issues that you care about most for this district?
So for me, it's really focusing on sort of rebuilding the community. And I don't necessarily mean rebuild just after Hurricane Harvey. It's sort of starting with the infrastructure, because if you look at the Valley, you look at San Antonio and Austin, they have expanded exponentially. Corpus has sort of been stuck in this since the 90s. I mean, it still looks the same whenever I, you know, whenever I was a kid here. And so the district isn't set up infrastructure-wise to be able to handle new markets and new businesses to come into the area. If you take Amazon, for example, a couple months ago they put out an RFP, request for proposal, for cities all over the country for them to basically locate their new headquarters or
distribution center.
Yeah. And that would have brought in, I think they said, about 50,000 jobs. And it was very meticulous at what they're looking for. And the only thing that we had was that they were looking for was A&M Corpus Christi and Del Mar College, and I guess Kingsville down the street, because they wanted new talent. They wanted to be able to pull talent from local universities to jump right into working for their business. Everything else, you know, they were looking for buildings that were already built, but that could be, you know, renovated, that they could just jump right into. We have none of that. We have a very heavy aging infrastructure all over the city. And so it's going, and I think infrastructure sort of trickles down to jobs, economy, healthcare, quality of life. Because whenever you have a strong infrastructure, that's going to bring in more jobs, and that's going to bring in a diverse pool of talent, and you're going to keep people here in Corpus Christi. And I'll be very honest and very frank, whenever I graduated from A&M Corpus, it was very tough for me to find a job here. I remember I was working, doing a morning show at Channel 3 at 4 a.m. every morning, and then also working a part-time like graphic design, advertising gig, and it still wasn't enough. And I was applying left and right, and it's like the quintessential postgraduate problem that a lot of people face here, and that's why a lot of our talent goes to Austin, they go to San Antonio, they go to New York, they go to, because a lot of the jobs are out there. And here, unless you want to work in oil and gas, and there's nothing wrong with working in oil and gas, but a lot of people don't go to college to work in oil and gas unless that's what, you know, they go to college for. So it's sort of it's looking at that. It's in at the federal level, healthcare. You know, for a single payer system, so that way everyone gets healthcare, because I believe healthcare is a right and not a privilege. Like it's very disheartening to see people feel like people need to fend for themselves, whenever a lot of these people that have to fend for themselves came from disadvantaged backgrounds. So, you know, it's sort of trying to not only be equal, but have equity within the community.
Okay. And what inspired you to run for District 27?
A lot of things. It was the main thing that triggered it was after the 2016 elections. I've been looking at ways to get involved back here in Texas, and I was just sort of getting so upset with a lot of the state bills that were trying to be passed, like SB 4, which is the Show Me Your Papers bill, or SB 6 with the transgender bathroom bill. And I was sort of just like, come on, Texas, you're killing me. And so after the election, Obama, his outgoing speech, his final speech as president, he basically said, we're in treacherous times right now, so don't count on anybody to do what you want. So you have to step up and do it. And so that's when I started the process of looking over, seeing where I could get involved with the community. And Farenthold kept being Farenthold. And I was like, I think this is the window to jump into, and it's been great. It's
And you started running before he announced his retirement.
Yeah. I kicked off the campaign early October. Okay. So for me, my campaign isn't a anti-Farenthold campaign. I already knew who he was. A lot of people know who he was, and I knew what I was going up against, and I know that I'm going up against him in a gerrymandered district. But if you look at what happened in Alabama a couple days ago, you'll see people still have, they care about the country, and I think that's how we can win the seat. It's an open seat now, and so it's,
people might actually put country over party.
Yeah, and that's important, and it's country over party on the Democrat and Republican side. It's, for me, a lot of my issues on my website, Eric, I'll give the shameless plug, ericforus.com. On the issues page, I give a lot of policy ideas and proposals and ways to address a lot of the issues. Because a lot of people run for office and they give a lot of, fluffy, feel-good statements, and we're going to do this, and we're going to work together, and we're going to unify, it's like, okay, but how? And I think people now are much more politically in tune to not only messaging, but they're politically in tune to everything. So whenever you say, oh, we're going to bring back jobs, okay, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to do that? And so people are knowing which questions to ask and knowing what to look for. And so whenever I started the process of getting this going, I did my research. I looked at policy, I looked at legislation, I looked at current programs that are already in place, and all right, how can we better these to make sure that this covers this group of people? And just various ways to address. And on my website, it's broken down by jobs, economy, healthcare, infrastructure, veterans, education, Social Security. I've done my work, I've done my research, and I'm still doing my research. And a lot of what I've been doing is I've been going out in this community and just listening to people's concerns, and bringing that back in. All right, how can this be adjusted? How can it be fixed?
All right. And lastly, we had a question on net neutrality. I know the FCC I think it was yesterday, rolled back the Obama rules that basically said we're going to give you net neutrality. Everybody gets the same speed of internet. Nobody gets charged extra. So I know they rolled that back. It just happened. We don't know all the consequences yet, but do you have an opinion on the net neutrality?
Yeah, I think what Obama did for net neutrality was great, and it's a shame that the current administration is trying to roll back those regulations, because it's not just, for me, if you look at what they're trying to do, it's not just them, it's not the current FCC chairman trying to appease a lot of these corporate interests like AT&T, Comcast, Spectrum. What this does is this affects a lot of disenfranchised and minority communities, because this will hurt people, high school kids that are trying to apply for college. This will hurt or groups that are trying to politically organize. This really diminishes the way a lot of people are able to use the internet. So whenever you have a free and open internet, which is how it should be, people are able to communicate, people are able to do what they're supposed to do. And this also hurts small businesses, because now they're at the mercy of these corporate businesses to be able to, do their e-commerce the way they should, to be able to expand to new markets the way they should. So this really complicates a lot of things, and it's all for corporate interest. And Farenthold, I think earlier this year, he voted to sell our browsing history to internet service providers, and which is a shame, because it's so they can make money, and we're already bombarded with advertisements left and right as it is. This is only just keeps furthering that, and so their whole thing is, the FCC chairman and most Republicans' whole thing is that they want to repeal this because less regulation, and which is great in certain aspects, but with something like the internet, when you have less regulation, you're going to have major corporations come in and trying to monopolize, and $5 for Facebook, $10 for internet, and it's it should be how internet should be the way it was designed originally, which is open and anybody can have access to it. So.
Okay. Well, Eric, thank you very much for stopping by. I know we went a little bit longer than we had planned, but I think that was pretty good. Everybody, I think, has a pretty good feeling for your opinions and your beliefs and what you stand for and your policies. And you want to give them your website again one more time?
Yeah, ericforus.com.
So, and they can see all your positions on there.
Positions, biography, pictures, you can volunteer, contribute, emphasis on the contribute. And yeah, it's all on there. I'm an open book, so if you message me on Facebook, I'll be the one to respond. I'm very accessible. Anybody could message me, and I respond to them pretty quickly. So,
well, great. Well, Eric, thanks again. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks.